So this is my presentation, Exploring Waste, a UX Adventure. He says. I'm going to open with a question. Physical response is fine. When was the last time that you chose to do something that was inconvenient? Not because you had to, but you actually wanted, you went out of your way to do something inconvenient because you wanted to. Answer if you want, shake your head, yes or no, if you can't think of anything.
2 days ago. So 2 days ago.
2 days ago, that's a pretty good record. So for the most people, it's quite a long thought process, from what I understand. We don't really do things that are inconvenient, right? And so we're going to go straight to fun facts. We explain it's going to be about waste. But when it comes to waste, Australia generates 75 million tons, and households generate the same volume of waste, give or take 0.5%, as the manufacturing and construction industries. The key difference being that, for the most part, manufacturing and construction have a much higher level of recycling than what households do. So all this data is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics from 2018-2019. I didn't make these graphs. We all love a graph, surely. But it's showing here, roughly at the top, recycle recovery rates for all the most of the products. And then at the bottom, you've got household waste by material. And so for the most part, 47% of all plastic waste is generated by the household. And yet it has the worst recycling rate of all materials generated at 15%. And of that 47% that was kind of doing, 87% goes straight to landfill, straight to the bin, doesn't even get touched, right? So that's including soft plastics and hard plastics. So there's a bit of differentiation here with some of the stats, but I'm cherry picking so we can keep this 10 minutes. Right, so we've kind of established that plastics are produced a lot in the household and it has a terrible recycling rate. So why is that? Effectively, it comes down to that plastic is just too good. We've effectively created a material that's cheap, it's versatile, and it lasts a long time. So over the course of plastics invention since 1907, less than 10% has ever been recycled. It all goes in the bin. Either the bin or the ocean or landfill. And then we decided, because it's so great, that we're going to use this stuff for like single-use objects, 40% of it. And the reason why it doesn't get recycled is it doesn't make any business sense. Plastic as a product loses its rigidity and its structural integrity the more that you reuse it. And there's only a certain type of plastic that can be recycled. And most stuff doesn't get made in that. So it's just easier, it's cheaper, and it gets sent away. And because it's easy and cheap, it's profitable. So there's going to expect it to double by 2030, which is where you'll most likely see it probably in the oceans. We've all had that kind of, we've seen those documents now, right? So I'm thinking about this as a waste, as like a waste thing. It's like, all right, so this kind of seems like a logical thing to kind of go after household plastics. And kind of why? Well, it's the least amount of effort for the biggest amount of impact. So if this stuff isn't getting recycled, there's no point trying to get people to recycle it. You just want to get people to stop using it altogether. And if you could get 25% of households to reduce their, to reduce plastic, or even just 25% reduction in total, that's a huge amount that's not going to be hitting landfill. So that's kind of where I've come from with this, is like, what am I going after and why? So what's the problem then? This is my problem statement. So our product is intended to help households reduce their plastic packaging consumption in the weekly and online grocery shop. We have reason to believe that existing products and services aren't meeting our goals, as the major food outlets currently offering no sustainable packaging options, and the alternative sustainability stores that exist operate in isolation, requiring multiple stops for advanced planning. So how do we create a product so that our customers are successful in buying plastic packaging free in a low effort, streamlined process that is unintrusive to their current purchasing habits? User research. So up I went and spoke to 7 people and generally asked them about their grocery shopping habits, where they shopped, why they shopped, what's informing their buying decisions, do they have any sustainable products already, and just kind of followed conversation wherever it went, within the general realm of reasonability. You've seen stickies before. I'm not going to bore you with an entire spreadsheet of them, but here's kind of 8 that kind of summarized what I arrived at. And a lot of them follow the similar path. Basically, everyone agreed grocery shopping is a pain in the ass. No one wants to do it, but people go out of the way because they need to eat, right? So kind of starting at the left, we've got people as like, I prefer to buy from a fresh food market and local growers, but that's not convenient, so I'll go pay a multi-huge corporation to do it. Other people are like, reducing waste is something that I'd like to do because I can actually contribute, but I'm not going to contact all these shops to check the online packaging. That just takes up too much of my time. Other people are saying, this has got to be the reason why the internet was invented, was to do grocery shopping. Yet there was a juxtaposition between people saying one thing and then not using the services that were provided, because a lot of people wanted to have control over what they bought. They didn't trust someone else to buy or pick their groceries because they had the preconceived idea that they were able to pick the best. And interestingly, another person was said that they do their shopping mostly through farmers markets because they offer that kind of alignment with their social responsibilities of having plastic-free packaging. So this is kind of what I've taken away, and then distilled down into kind of like, this is kind of where we're going with this. So solution generation. So we got to this point, and then, well, it was struggle street. Seriously struggle street. Crazy 8 didn't work for me at all. I came up with like 5 ideas. We had like a plastic delivery service in a van, which was going to be amazing. So I could do a whole van conversion and make it look amazing. And then that's way too physical. It doesn't actually sell. I had this idea of like a web crawler. You've got those discount coupon things that you attach to a Chrome extension that get all the discount codes. But did that for like the sustainability stores. And like a social media awareness campaign, but that's kind of redundant because plastics, they don't get recycled anyway. So what's the point? And then government legislation, which is way out of my hands. But I tried anyway. More, really quick sketching, just thinking about like this idea of a system, and then came up with this mega. Basically, I ended up with a supermarket warehouse that was going to have all of this great stuff and then deliver it to your door, and it got out of control really quickly. And so it did take quite a lot of thinking and a lot of encouragement to kind of try and come around to this, like, how can I distill this down so that actually solves the key problem rather than just like one small element that is going to fit 80% and then just going to skip the last 20. So I was thinking about what I'd learned in my user tests, right? And so this kind of idea of complacency and convenience and it's all too hard. So if that leads into indifference, like how do I lean into that? How do I create a one-tap solution for people who want to change, but just can't be bothered? The system. So how to think about what a whole system could be and then fix that into something that was tangible for the nature of this project. So what I came up with is something that looks like this. Is the product, in this case, is the business. And it would be an interface, an app, or whatever it is. But it kind of piggybacks into existing infrastructure in like payroll does. And in this case, the client is a pre-existing farmers market store, which is Sydney Haymarket as an example. And they have a bunch of specialty owners, all of them independently owned, and it's a bit of a hassle. Some of them don't have stuff online, some of them don't. But if I want to shop online there, I can't. So this product takes all of their online inventory, uploads it to a single place to streamline it into an app, which then the user is able to basically troll through all of the independent stores together to get what they want. The idea of going to the farmers market is because they're independently owned businesses, they're more likely to encourage bring your own paper bags, bring your own packaging, packaging free, as one of my user interviewees mentioned that exists locally near her. And so I was like, great, here's a system. This is amazing. I can't design an entire business in a week. Like, that's madness. So again, spent a little bit of time spinning in my own head, but the MVP process and all these things that I wanted to create, doing that MVP kind of process really helped narrow down what that would be in its most basic form, along with like then doing some user flows, thinking about how people shop online. It's not a new thing. We've been doing it for a while. Heaps of apps exist already. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just kind of going. So going through that process helped me basically come up with the app. here we go. So basic wireframes. Found a pretty mad kit. It had all the bits I need. We put it together. So you've got a home screen, basically telling you, what's on at the markets. You've got your tabs along the bottom. You can browse by store if you already knew what you wanted. You could browse by products. There's a plastic-free tabs that you could really go down that route. And then you had an items thing. So I mean, we've seen these before. We know how the internet works, so it's not too crazy. So then off I went. These went and got user tested, and user testing went pretty well, aside from a couple of spelling mistakes which threw people off, and a couple of mismatched back buttons that took people to unexpected pages. It went relatively seamlessly. People were familiar with how these things work and what they did. There were a few things though that people wanted to see post user testing. And that was particularly around the stores. When looking at stores, they kind of expected to go through to like a double screen almost, one that was telling them a description of the store and maybe contact info and photos of what it looked like, didn't exist previously, and then to be able to swipe and see, what they were selling. So that's what those three on the right were. And then on the left here, the welcome screen, that was pretty much just informed by what people's suggestions were. They expected to be able to have a list or a recipe or find out what was on sale or what activities was happening around. So that was just kind of me filling in the pictures and throwing that there. A couple of UI updates is that rather than I inverted the bottom as well, so that rather than having it blue on white, you now had a white on blue, so you went easier to know where you were within the system. Another thing was payments. Payment is how I had it on the left. People may want to be able to have more variety. They knew it was a wireframe prototype. They weren't getting too crazy with it, but this was my refinement into how that payment would work. Pick your card or pick your other option. It would take you obviously to PayPal, screen or Apple Pay if that's what we wanted to do. But just kind of helping people work through that process. Right, great. We made a shopping app. But how does that solve the problem? Right. This page is basically what it boils down to, of why I explained the system to start with. In the packaging, it asks you 3 questions. It actually gives you 3 options. How would you like it packaged? Plastic-free packaging, reduced plastic packaging, or I want to kill sea turtles. So this was a little bit of a gag on my part because I was just like, that'll be funny, why not? I kind of knew the people I was going to be testing. And then as I got closer to the testing day, I was like, oh, let's just keep it. It's a social experiment. Let's see what happens. Going with the sea, there was a bit of thought behind sea turtles. It's the classic image of what you think about with plastic pollution, right? It's the plastic, the turtle with its thing around the neck. It's not something that makes us feel good, but it's something that you connect with. So here's the packaging screen. You've got positive reinforcement for the top 2 and a negative reinforcement for the bottom. Provide a little bit of information telling you that we'll eliminate wherever possible, reduce unnecessary plastic packaging, and then like, really, are you sure? On the review screen, we've also got another button there that really suggests you to go back if that's what you want to do. And so this is built by that, basically by choosing one of these 3 options, the system that allows the shopping market to do the shopping and all that kind of stuff, everything would be appropriately labeled so that you would know what you'd be getting and what you wouldn't be getting when you're doing the shopping. There's also 3 different end screens, depending on what choice that you chose. So you've got the positive reinforcement for going full plastic. You've got the middle one, not quite as grandiose, but still encouraging to be better, to do a good job. And the last one to basically be better and letting people know that there is an alternative options available. You have to do nothing, just do something, right? So what was the result? 100% of my users that I retested picked plastic-free option, suggesting that when provided with a choice that has 0 effect on their level of convenience, the social existing messaging around the damage plastic is doing is working. People just need an easy, streamlined purchasing option that doesn't interrupt the current way they do things. It didn't have a negative. Everyone saw it, laughed, thought it was funny. Most mentioned that that should be a thing that exists for the most part anyway. Only one person said, that's not very nice. Then they still had 3 options, still went with 100% full plastic. That's my project. Thanks for listening.